What is up, divergent friends? Welcome to another episode of Cognitive Dissonance with Loyal to the Foil. This is the channel where we investigate the freaking insanity surrounding us, man. And we've got some crazy things to talk about today, like for real crazy things. But before we get to that, remember that you can follow me on Twitter, Parler, DLive. I've got all the links on my YouTube banner. Also, I got monetized. So if you happen to be catching this live, feel free to help out. You can super chat or you can donate to the stream directly at loyaltothefoil.com. A little bit goes a long way, obviously. And if you haven't checked out my other show, Space Force News Live on 1 Foot in 5D with Alara of Sirius, check that out. We have tons of fun every week. We're live every Sunday night. So you should do that also, for sure. Well, so what is going on? In the last video, I started to cover a book by the poster boy for the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. He had written a book with Thierry Mallory called COVID-19, The Great Reset. And last time we went over basically the economic reset that they're proposing. Now, if you remember, and if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But if you remember, they talked a lot about how we are so interconnected now. We are so interconnected now that anything that happens somewhere else is bound to affect everything everywhere else. You know, kind of like a non-linear way of thinking. It's like the butterfly effect. Uh, and basically, that serious problems somewhere else can lead to a cascade failure, everywhere. And somehow, this guy came to the conclusion that the answer was more interconnection. It's freaking baffling, people. That is beyond me right there. He did a lot of comparisons with our current pandemic to the freaking bubonic plague, which, as I said, seems like a false comparison to me, in numerous ways. And then he concluded his section on the economic reset with the necessity of something that they're calling degrowth. The controlled, um, you know, the controlled decrease in economic activity. Like a artificially fomented controlled decrease in economic activity. That would apparently open us up for the glories of Marxism, because that works out so well. They think that capitalism has proved that it's ineffective. And that also seems really freaking ridiculous to me. But whatever. Don't believe me. I want you to hear what he has to say.
The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality. In short, we need a great reset.
He's claiming capitalism failed. He seems to be doing okay, but whatever. He promises a new world, a better world, a fairer world. Fair for For who?
We have a choice to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today: polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest and conflicts. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again.
New social contract, people. That's what he's coming with. And they want to integrate, the next generation. That's why they're indoctrinating these kids like that. And he kills me with this capitalism has empirically failed business. He seems to be doing okay. They point to this massive social injustice that there's such an economic disparity. Well, all I'm going to say is, man, look at Venezuela. That shit doesn't end well. Ever. Literally never. Never in the history of never has that shit worked out. And they don't stop there. They don't stop there. And by the way, nationalism is like a four-letter word to these people. Like they think it is just the most disgusting. He even points out in his book patriotism, as if this is a problem. Being proud of where you're from. This is an issue, right? Patriotism and being proud of your country and nationalism, it leads to tribalism. All these isms, and it's all bad. And just the guy's nuts. The guy's nuts. But nevertheless, they don't plan on stopping with an economic reset. They want to push a whole new social and technological reset. Now, the guy has written numerous books, I just started reading his book on the fourth industrial revolution, which would be the revolution, the revolution in technology that we're seeing, and how they can use that to enforce this build back better, great reset, new world order nonsense that they've been pushing that now they're claiming as a conspiracy theory. If you didn't catch that, that was freaking crazy, right? My last video, I showed you the little speech by Justin Trudeau where he was talking about build back better and how the pandemic is an opportunity. It's an opportunity, people. Never let a good crisis go to waste, right? That's how they feel. And now this week, Trudeau's out there claiming it, it's a conspiracy theory. See, here's the problem. They think we're freaking stupid. They think you're stupid. They think I'm stupid. They think we don't understand what's going on around us. Or maybe that we're just not paying attention, with all the fear porn they push. Uh, Maybe our brains are just, you know, been jostled around a bit too much. I don't know. I don't know, I'm just saying. But this leads nowhere good. Now, the technological stuff that they're pushing is really freaking creepy, man. Really freaking creepy. If you guys ran across this article this week, I just had to shake my freaking head. Great Reset Mastermind suggests risk assessment brain scans before allowing travel, as well as implantable microchips to read thoughts. Now, I know you're saying, oh no, Foil, that's total conspiracy theory, right? That's freaking crazy. They're not going to do that. Oh, but wait, there's more. This is not a new thing. This is not by any means science fiction, people. This is science fact. If you pay any attention to the mad scientists at DARPA, you know that they have been working on in several programs, as a matter of fact, their N3 programs, their subnets programs. They are currently working on literally mind reading tech. I mean, drones and robots. I mean, naturally, the army wants this, but don't think that it stops there. Um, they have gotten to the point where they have mapped the synaptic pathways in our brains with such precision that they can literally know what you're thinking, right? They can literally know what you're thinking. Now what they're talking about here, I mean, you guys are probably familiar with Neuralink, Elon Musk's great brain chip craziness. But I mean, they have both internal and external ways of doing this. You don't even need the brain implant. I mean, they have these helmets that basically will translate your synaptic patterns into a like a magnetic readable and transmittable signal that they could send. Like in this case, they're talking about drones and robots, but that they can send to an offsite receiver and have it downloaded and translated and whatever else. I mean, here's the issue. We talk a lot in America about freedom of speech, right? It's a basic human right. It's guaranteed in the Constitution. But we really need to be having the conversation about our right to freedom of thought, our right to privacy of thought, right? Because let's game this out a little bit here. We're not just talking about drones and robots for the military, right? What happens when you go to apply for a job and they have one of those helmets and they use that to determine whether or not you're a good fit? Why do an interview when they can just figure out what you're really thinking? What happens when you're arrested and questioned? Do you still have a right to plead the fifth at this point? Does it even matter? Like, I don't know. I'm just asking, right? This ends badly. And Klaus is literally suggesting these scans to be used for travel. Now, we talked last time about the global airlines industries that are all for the digital health ID. Ticketmaster. I'm sure you guys have heard Ticketmaster, global health ID. People that are literally begging for these technologies so they can go back to normal. Well, Klaus told us in the last episode that shit is never going back to normal, like literally never, right? And they're not going to stop there. They're not going to stop there. I want you to hear it from his mouth.
It's at the end, what the fourth industrial revolution will lead to is a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological identities. When I wrote the book, I started to write it for years ago. It was published 3 years ago. It was sold, very interesting, over 1 million times in the world. And what is interesting is
Listen
that
who he says bought this book.
800,000 copies, more than 800,000 copies of those 2 million were sold in 3 countries alone: China, Japan, and South Korea.
China, Japan, and South Korea. Okay, this man just said a fusion of our physical, digital, and biological identities. They're pushing transhumanism, people. They are pushing transhumanism, people. Let me. This is why I'm saying we need to be having the discussion, particularly as it relates to freedom and privacy of thought now, because the way that this typically works with new technologies is that, and I'm going to use cars as an example here. So, somebody invents a car. It's great. People love it. More people want it. They start producing the cars. More people have cars. People are driving cars. They start to find problem areas, and then they go back and legislate. Well, that method won't work with some of these new technologies. When we're talking about AI, we're talking about automated weapon systems, we're talking about um, mind reading tech. We need to be preemptively legislating to control this stuff. And I mean, I don't really see this conversation being had anywhere. They're opening Pandora's box, people, and this is all bad. And these people want to use the current crisis to force this stuff on us, and it's no joke. It's no joke. Um, I want to go through a little bit of the societal reset stuff that he pushes, and then into the tech reset stuff. Uh, it's creepy as shit, man. I don't even know what to say. So he starts again by telling us that pandemics fundamentally change societies. And of course, again, he's comparing to the plague most of the time. What he does point out, though, is that first and foremost, the post pandemic era will usher in a period of massive wealth redistribution from the rich to the poor and from capital to labor. He's lying to you. See, what happens is, and what we've seen happening, is that the wealth redistribution that they're talking about is not from the 1% to the rest of everybody, it's from the middle class to the poor. Because what they want is a fully dichotomized society. They're going to have the really rich, and then there's going to be everybody else. There is no in between. It's going to make people a lot easier to control and manipulate, right? Because they claim they're doing all of this for the good. It's just like Orwell said in Animal Farm. Everybody's created equal, but some are more equal than others. And that's how this is going to play out here. Because what we have seen is the entire time that they have been pushing these lockdowns and claiming that we have this great inequality and we need this wealth distribution, what they've been doing is slaughtering middle class business, right? They've been slaughtering middle class business. Now, my grandfather tells me he's never seen a poor man give another poor man a job, right? And damn if that doesn't ring true. The jobs that they're killing that are provided by small and medium-sized businesses that are owned by middle-class members of society, those are the businesses and stuff that are employing the most economically disadvantaged in society. So not only are they locking us at home and breeding this societal unrest and forcing these images on us in the news and in the media and whatever else, um, and pushing this narrative, but at the same time, they're killing the jobs. They're killing the jobs for the most impoverished people, and they're wiping out the middle class at the same time. I mean, for God's sakes, we saw in Virginia they were pushing they were pushing bills that would effectively end suburbs. Like they want to wipe out any upward mobility is what this is. You know, Cause I don't think most of us need to be super freaking wealthy. Like, I just want to make sure my bills are paid, that I'm comfortable. I have, clean clothes, warm place. Like, if I want to go do something, I can. Like, I don't need to be freaking Paris Hilton. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. But they want to end that altogether, right? Because their entire plan is dependent on you being willing to accept universal basic income, right? And that's what this is. You kill the jobs, you kill the savings and the holdings and the assets of the people that were giving the jobs. Now you've just got a very basic lower class that you put into a new form of economic slavery by putting them on these social welfare programs, right? But that 1%, they're not being affected by any of this. They're fine. They're fine. They're not losing businesses and filing for bankruptcy and losing their homes. It's not them, and it will never be them. Even though they want you to think we're all in this together, that's a fundamental lie, right? That's a freaking fundamental lie. And he points to social unrest. The social unrest that we've seen all year, the riots, not just in the United States. I mean, freaking all over the globe. You know, just people are angry. He says that countless studies and articles and warnings have highlighted the particular risk of social instability based on the obvious observation that when people have no jobs, no income, and no prospects for a better life, they often resort to violence. And here's the thing, he's right about that. And I'll give you a really good example. When we went into Iraq, when we were taking down Saddam, after that, after Saddam was dealt with, you had a large portion of his population that was either in the military or dependent on their family members in the military. And instead of finding a way to reintegrate these people, they were left they were left with no income, no job. Now you've got trained people, armed people out there with no no sense of any way to go forward, and um, we saw an influx of Islamic radicalism in Iraq. You know, I think that if they would have done something different as far as the military was concerned, we may not have seen that grow the way that we did. I really do. But it's the same thing here. He says those who are left hopeless, jobless, and without assets could easily turn against those who are better off, right? Already, some 30% of Americans have zero or negative wealth. If people don't emerge from the current crisis, if more people emerge from the current crisis with neither money or jobs or access to health care, the people become desperate, and then they might turn on the elite, right? Well, not them. I mean, have we not? It's not the 1%. It's anybody else in the middle and lower echelons it'll be them eating themselves. It's not them turning on the 1%. It never happens to them. These people have, security, and they just live different. They just live different. Gated communities, whatever, bodyguards. They're able to stay in their homes. I don't know, whatever. But when he talks about society eating itself, I mean, he's right. If there's no jobs and no income, people tend to get restless, but they're fueling that. See, he mentions it not so that we can try and address it, unless we use their answers, of course, but so that this can be picked up and fueled by the media is what happens here. It's crazy. They spend a lot of time also worrying about what's going on with minority communities. And if you if you caught my video, I think it's called Save That He Had the Mark or the Number of His Name. If you caught that video, I had come across a document that was partially authored by somebody on Biden's COVID task force. And the entire document was an assessment of the behavioral characteristics of, well, primarily minority communities that are generally distrustful of the government. And they do all of this analysis, and then they come to these action items, basically ways that they can convince people that are generally distrustful to go and take this vaccine. And what's sickening to me is that one of the primary answers that they came up with was the bundling of services, right? They use WIC offices specifically, but they want to tie in food assistance and rent assistance with vaccination, and that's how they're going to get the minority communities to say, okay, okay. Well, okay, say you do that. Now you're not just getting vaccinated. Your kids have to get vaccinated for your programs to continue. Your kids have to get vaccinated for you to go to school. Um, you have bred a new form of submission, right? I mean, social welfare is already a form of economic servitude because they greatly limit what you're allowed to do, how much you're allowed to make, what you're allowed to have, what you can and cannot buy when they give you these programs. Well, now they want to integrate vaccinations into this. And I mean, they point out that the mortality rate on Black Americans is 2.4 times higher than for white Americans. Now, granted, this was written in June. The statistics have probably fluctuated a bit, but they point these things out not so that they can find not so that they can find a way to address them, but so that they can fuel the crisis, right? So that they can come in later and present you with the solution that they think you ought to have, right? Because according to these guys, there is no alternative. Our system has failed. This is the answer. I know we talk about Hegelian dialectics. They create a problem, they have the solution, they want you to beg for their version of the solution, right? No other alternatives are acceptable, and it's ridiculous. And the point of all of this is because, like he said in the video, they want to force us into renegotiating what we call the social contract, right? And this new social contract that they want is going to be um, more of a social welfare safety net, and more health, social health care, and unemployment benefits and bigger trade unions, and they want to eradicate, the Western obsession with the markets, right? They want to increase public scrutiny of private companies. In general, they want the role of the state to increase on a massive level, and then greater government intervention, and of course, more taxes. Of course, they want more taxes, right? But what's really, really scary, and I mean, he says this, I'm going to read it to you. Another aspect that is critical for social contracts in Western democracies pertains to liberties and freedom. There is currently growing concern that the fight against this pandemic and future ones will lead to the creation of permanent surveillance societies. This issue is explored more in detail in the chapter on technological reset, but suffice to say that a state emergency now can only be justified when a threat is public, universal, and existential. In addition, political theorists often emphasize that extraordinary powers require authorization from the people and must be limited in time and proportion. He goes on to basically suggest that we need to renegotiate the idea that government power is derived from the people, right? That that is too limited for the kind of government that we need to have now, right? This global government. We need to get rid of the idea that we hold sacred, that the power of the government is derived from, by mandate from the masses, because that doesn't fit with where they want to go with it, right? um Something else I found funny, I ran across this, and I just want to point this out to you. So this guy Klaus, he literally lauds uh Andrew Cuomo, right? That's their hero, right? The exhortation of different leaders, ranging from HRH, the Prince of Wales, to Andrew Cuomo, to build it back better, goes in the direction of the enlightened leadership that they're looking for, right? If Andrew Cuomo is your example of enlightened leadership, man, you are fucked already. You feel me? Ain't nobody got time for that mess. Um, so as far as the tech stuff goes, right? This technological reset that he talks about, he really goes into a lot of detail in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Like I said, um, basically making the case that technology and digitization, it's going to revolutionize everything, and it is, right? And it is. Um, but what they're really pushing is transhumanism and a permanent and more powerful surveillance state. And those are my quandaries here. Obviously, tech is going to progress whether we agree with the potential for it or not, but we need to work within the parameters of our established system. Like I said, if we wait to address these problems, the cat's already out of the bag. There are certain technologies that we need to be preemptively legislating for, primarily AI, like I said, and any kind of invasive tech that wants to get in our heads. Once they're there, there's nothing we can do, right? And you already know anything that can connect to the internet can be freaking hacked. So, yeah, hell no. Um, but he says it. They argue that the pandemic will accelerate innovation even more, catalyzing technological changes already underway, turbocharging any digital business or the digital dimension of any business. It will also accentuate one of the greatest societal and individual challenges posed by tech: privacy. We will see how contact tracing has an unequaled capacity and quasi essential place in the armory needed to combat COVID, while at the same time being positioned to become an enabler of mass surveillance, because that's what we need. Definitely more surveillance. I mean, good God. Um, and they really want to sell it to you. They really want to sell it to you. They want you to buy in. It makes it a whole lot easier if you buy into their plans, right? Um, and he uses the social distancing as an example. right? Um, as social and physical distancing persists, relying more on digital platforms to communicate, work, seek advice, or order something, it will little by little gain ground on formerly ingrained habits, right? They want to make a new normal for you. And if they can do it and it's safer and cheaper, you'll be more willing to accept that new normal, right? And he uses the example of going to the gym versus exercising at home, maybe with, a cycling class in front of a screen. No, you may not think it's as fun, but if it's safer and cheaper, you're willing to buy in. And they know that. And they know that, especially when they're killing jobs and taking disposable income. Because that's all they want. They want you to have a universal basic income, right? They're not trying to give you disposable income to do what you want. That's not how this works at all. He talks a little bit about telemedicine and drone delivery, how the relaxation of regulations that had previously hampered progress in different technological domains has been affected by the lockdowns. How we saw a lot of this regulation wiped, which allowed these technologies to progress at an advanced pace and basically build what they're calling the contactless economy. And he says that this contactless economy, it's moving forward either way. It's moving forward either way, with or without any viral threat, because now they've fostered such a fear in people that they're going to automatically default towards these contactless options. You know, it's convenience. Why you want to go to the store? You can just order it from Amazon. You know, you really want to go out to eat and park and maybe wait in the waiting room or whatever, you can just have it delivered to your house. Why bother? Why bother? Right? They want to divide people. They want to divide people from their social safety nets. You know, an isolated an isolated person is a much easier controllable person. It's freaking nuts. Um, he talks a little bit about the deployment of automated tech, right? At a time when physical distancing became an obligation, robots were deployed in places as different as warehouses, supermarkets, hospitals, broad range of things. Uh, AI has been able to do better work than human people can do, right? And that over the next few years, he predicts that we're gonna see a doubling in this kind of tech, which is going to result, obviously, in a lot of job loss. So we need to be renegotiating how we deal with unemployment. This is why they're pushing all of these things, right? This is why they're pushing all of these things. What I think is really scary is that he points out the importance of this contact tracing and contact tracking and the associated surveillance that'll come with it. See, here's the thing. Contact tracing is something different than contact tracking. Okay. Contact tracing is kind of like a back tracing. Once you find out you've got something, they go back and they try to figure out where you've been and the contacts, the people that you've made contact with. Contact tracking is in real time, right? And he says that uh, this could make the lockdowns a lot more easily enforceable, right? It it not only allows backtracking all the contacts with whom a user of a mobile phone has been in touch, but also tracking the user's real-time movements, which in turn affords the possibility to better enforce a lockdown and to warn other mobile users in the proximity that they've been exposed, so they can go home and lock themselves up too. Sounds freaking great. I love it. Um, and then he lauds the approach that China and Hong Kong and South Korea took when they implemented coercive and intrusive measures of digital tracing, where they were tracking people without their consent through their mobile and credit card data, and even employed video surveillance. Uh, in some economies, they required the mandatory wearing of electronic bracelets for travel arrivals and people in quarantine. These bracelets that can tell them, what your heartbeat is, what your temperature is, whatever, right? I'm not even going to get into that, but that opens up a whole that wearable tech that's tracking your body responses. Riddle me this. So you're watching Biden on TV, you get angry, your heart rate goes up, you know, maybe your blood pressure gets a little go. They know when they can match your body responses to your feelings, we've got a serious problem there. Just just think about that, just think about that. Um, so he ultimately concludes that this stuff has to be mandatory. No voluntary contact tracing app will work if people are unwilling to provide their own personal data to the governmental agency that monitors the system, right? So it can't be voluntary and it can't be anonymous. It's got to be mandatory. You got to be all in. You got to give up all your information, right? If any individual refuses to, say, download the app, they would be withholding information about a possible infection, about their movements and their contacts. Everyone will be adversely affected. So this is where we're going with this, people. This is where we're going with this, right? Man, you thought we saw an expansion of the surveillance state with 9/11 that was bad. 9/11 ain't got nothing on this guy. Watch, you know? Um, I just need you to be aware. I just want you to be aware, know their plan. Don't buy don't buy in to what they're selling you. Man, it's a wolf ticket. Don't buy wolf tickets. Like this shit ends badly. Um, well, that is all I got for you on this today. You can find me tomorrow. I'm going to be on Journey to Truth podcast with Tyler Koala. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun. That is going to be at 5:30 Central Time. So feel free to come and check that out. I'm going to post the link on my Twitter. Um, Guys, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Only 25% of my viewers are subscribed at the moment. It's kind of crazy. Hit the subscribe button, people. If this is the second video you're watching, you've clearly come back. Hit the subscribe button and share. Share this video so I can get this information out to more of the sleeping masses. They clearly need it. You can check me out on Twitter. Please feel free to drop me a line in the comments below. I will be back in another couple of days with some more info for you. But until then, stay loyal